Hey everybody, I wanted to go live tonight. I'm going a little bit later. There's been a lot of thunderstorms in South Florida. I haven't been able to get on YouTube or Facebook or anything very much. Wanted to talk about Genevieve Berhand's book, Your Invisible Power, and chapter 10, How I Became the Only Pupil of the Great Mental Scientist T. Troward. When I first started reading that chapter, the one thing I noticed, this book was written in 1912. And here we have a woman in America trying to get to know a scientist in Great Britain. Today, that's like no problem. We just pick up our mobile phone, bam, we're on the line, we got a hold of somebody. But this is 1912. And in 1912, you had to write letters, and you had to wait for the letters to get a response from the letters that you wrote. So here's a woman who had a dream, and she was determined to make that dream into a reality. So the first thing she did was she wrote this guy and said, I want to be your student. And she didn't get a response. And she had friends of hers write letters of recommendation trying to get this guy to take her as a pupil. And finally, she gets a response back saying that, hey, I just don't have time for this. I'll talk to you, but I don't have time to teach anyone. So now she has to get from the US to Great Britain. Again, 1912. You don't jump on a 747 and fly across the pond. This is, you get on a ship, and maybe this takes 7 or 10 days, something. It's not something that you can do easily. Back then, most of the travel is by ship or by train. Get to Great Britain, to London, she has to go find this guy's house in the middle of nowhere. So that took some effort. So the first thing I noticed is persistence. There's persistence here. She was persistent with her goal of wanting to study with this person, to where she went through a lot of challenges to get there. And one of the things that she wrote about was she remembered the promise in the Bible, which says, all things whatsoever thou wilt believe, thou hast received, and thou shalt receive. So she knew that if she already felt she was this guy's pupil, that he was going to take her to be his pupil. So eventually she tracks down T. Troward, and she meets with him, and he basically tells her to her face that, I can't take any students. I just don't have time. It's not possible. And after a lengthy meeting, as she and her friend are going to leave, he says, look, I know you're going to Paris. I'm doing a bunch of lectures, blah, blah, blah. He says, if you write me, if you take the chance to write me, I'll write you back. So basically, he's opening the door, even though he's not going to take any students. He's opening the door and giving her the opportunity to at least communicate with him regularly. So she goes to Paris, and she starts writing to T. Troward. And again, she's trying to get him to be her teacher. And he asks her a question in one of his letters. And the question he asked is, what is the meaning of verse 21:16 in the Bible, in the chapter of Revelation? And it is, and the city lieth foursquare, and the length as large as the breadth. He measured the city with a reed, 12,000 furlongs. The length, the width, and the height of it are equal. And he wanted her to answer the question, what does that mean? Well, this is where intuition kicks in a little bit, because she asks theologians, she asks priests, she asks her friends, she asks scientists, she asks lots of people the question, and everybody answers it. And everybody that answers it, she gets the feeling that this really isn't the right answer. That's where your intuition, it's one of your 6 intellectual faculties. Hers kicks in and says, don't answer the answer. Wait, there's another answer out there for you. Wait for that answer to come along. So he had given her a list of books to track down while she was in Paris, and she goes to a bookstore and she's buying these books, and she sees a poster for some astrologist, some professor that does astrology. So she wants to meet this professor, and her idea was she's going to use, I want to get my horoscope from this guy. But the reality is she really wanted to ask this astrologer this question. She didn't know how, but she knew this is the guy she needs to talk to because this is a guy that's going to give her the answer. Well, turns out the professor is not someone who likes to do horoscopes for people, and he's really annoyed that she's shown up at his office to ask for something like this. And he really just wants her to get out of his office and let him go about his business. When all of a sudden one of his cats jumps in her lap, and he's like, my cat doesn't take to people like this. There's something unique about this person. I need to talk to this person. So he agrees to meet with her 2 weeks later, and if she will give him all the information, he'll do a reading for her horoscope. So a couple of weeks go by, she shows up, and he's getting the information from her, and he's, I got this funny feeling. His intuition kicks in, and his intuition is, this isn't really why you wanted to talk to me. This isn't what you really want from me. So now she asks him the question, what does this verse from the Bible mean? The 21st, chapter 21, verse 16, and the city lieth foursquare, and the length as large as the breadth. He measured the city with a reed, 12,000 furlongs. The length, the width, and the height of it are equal. What does that mean? And right away he answered, it's the truth. Because no matter how you look at the truth, it's going to be the same. It's always going to be the truth. If you look at it from the front, it's the truth. Look at it from the back, it's the truth. Look at it from the side, it's the truth. Look at it from the bottom, it's the truth. Look at it from above, it's the truth. It's never going to change the way its shape or its dimension. It's the truth. And she went, aha, that's the answer. So she writes back to T. Troward and she says, this is the answer, truth. And you got it right. And this led her to become his student. So that's how she got to study with T. Troward, who at the time was the greatest scientist. And he told her specifically what they were going to be studying basically was going to be the Bible and how the Bible relates to life in general, I guess. But in order for her to get to be that student, she had to trust her intuition. She had to be persistent. And anytime that she ran into a difficult challenge, she had to overcome that because that's what her heart really desired. And I think you should give the book a read. And as you're reading it, remember, this is a time when there's no airplanes. You can't just pick up the phone and call overseas like you could today. There were a lot of difficult things to overcome for her to get to that position. And in 1912, she's a woman trying to study with the greatest scientist in the world, which pretty much is, oh, you're a woman, pfft, who cares? Most women wouldn't even get somebody to talk to them about such things. So all those things that she had to overcome were pretty amazing. And that makes her a pretty amazing person that you should give this book a good read. Thank you and have a great night, everybody.